Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I got to see Tenet. And this was my most anticipated film of 2020, as if any of you have watched my videos about my top directors, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan. And I could not wait for this film, and obviously everything that has been going on. I'm not ready to go back to the theaters. I could probably do a whole entire video just talking about that perspective on where cinema should fit in this COVID world right now. But they were showing this at a drive-in at the Philly Navy Yard through Philly Film Society, and thank you so much that you do that because I got to watch it in the confines of my own car, where honestly I can change the volume. And of course I'm going to start there because I feel like that's probably the most relevant thing. I was able to understand everything in Tenet, but I was also able to adjust the volume while watching the film because I was listening on a radio at a drive-in. Don't know how well that would have worked in the theater because, yes, the sound mixing in this film is ridiculous. And I know it's been a complaint about Christopher Nolan films for a long time, and I will write it off most of the time because I'm just like, Christopher Nolan's such an amazing technical filmmaker, but I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, being a little more critical of his work and thinking about sound mixing is a big part of a technical aspect of a film, and if you can't effectively do that, you can't hear what the characters are saying. Luckily, I could hear them because I was able to adjust the volume. But that's an issue, and I really think that's a big drawback in terms of the enjoyment of the film when you can't understand what they're saying. But the soundtrack from Ludwig Göransson, no, it wasn't Hans Zimmer, is different and interesting and pulsating and just really, I have to start with the action sequences because this is some of the most inventive, intense action sequences I have ever seen in a movie. So creative, so inventive, and just Nolan is amazing when it comes to that. And the practical effects of everything in this film is off the charts. You watch an actual plane blow up into like a airport terminal. They use an actual plane. And just from that standpoint, you can tell this movie was $250 million because it really went there all across the world, globe hopping, really felt like a Bond film in that way. And the time turning is really cool in practice and in action. Now, explaining things. So this is my biggest issue with the film. There is so much exposition in this film. Like, well more than half of the dialogue in this film is exposition. Actually, probably if you took time and really figured it out, it'd probably be like 80-90% of the dialogue in this film is exposition. And that's a problem. Like, show don't tell. And, like, that's filmmaking 101 in a script. But, like, this film is too complicated for you not to have a bunch of things spelled out for you. But some of the most important things to really get an understanding of this film is never told to you and you're talked down to. Like, how does this work? It's either don't tell us because we really don't need to know, or don't put in the script dialogue that says, oh, well, you don't need to know that. Don't condescend the audience. I felt like this script was an asshole, honestly. It was a jerk. And Christopher Nolan's, like, I'm just like, did you really write that? And that made me mad, honestly, a couple times in the film because I don't want to have a film, like, not only condescend me, but, like, overtly talk down to me. And it's just like, where do you get off at this point? He knows that he has his audience hooked, that's why. And here's the thing. This film is suspenseful and amazing action. It's inventive, it's ambitious. This is like so many trappings of an amazing film here. because Christopher Nolan's an amazing filmmaker. And, like, the exposition, the way that the dialogue speaks to you sometimes, just is a bit much. Especially how the script talks to you. It's more than a bit much. It's way too much. Like, you shouldn't be talking to your audience like that. And then there's the acting. John David Washington, in general, is a solid lead in this film. And, like, he feels a little wooden at certain points, especially reading, like, certain dialogue. He just felt like he was reading it off of a piece of paper and kind of took me out of those scenes. But Robert Pattinson is great, has a lot of charisma. Elizabeth Debicki is emotional and really brings some raw feelings to her role. Kenneth Branagh's just over the top as hell as like a yelly, just Russian caricature, honestly. And like Michael Caine pops up a little bit. Aaron Taylor Johnson pops up and he's a little snarky. Himesh Patel, recognized him immediately. Doing an American accent, I was a little weirded out by it. I'm just like, because the first time you hear him speak is very interesting. Like, I don't think I even have to say the cinematography and how things are shot in this is incredible. It's a Christopher Nolan movie, but I probably should at least give it that recognition because it really is. But the first time you see Himesh Patel is just like this camera circumventing him, Robert Pattinson, and John David Washington speaking with each other. And I couldn't even tell who was talking because I didn't recognize his accent immediately. But this film has no characters in it. There's like no depth. Like maybe Elizabeth Debicki has a little bit of depth to her, but everyone else is just like a clean slate. Robert Pattinson brings so much charm to it and perspective that he's probably the most interesting character in the film. But like our protagonist, they literally call him the protagonist, and they even make a point he's a clean slate. But the thing is, it makes it hard for us to connect with him. And this story is twisty and unexpected, and as the film goes on, it's an interesting story. And I might be a little more forgiving than others, especially with some of the negatives I brought up, but I think this is solid B work for Christopher Nolan, for his standards. Like, this definitely is lower tier Nolan film for me. This is down there with Insomnia for me, maybe Following. But in the end, and like, for those of you who know my channels, like, you were probably expecting most people, it's like, this is like Interstellar. I loved Interstellar. Interstellar is my favorite Christopher Nolan film. Just putting that out there. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot, and I look forward to watching it again once I get on probably 4K, Blu-ray. But I'm so glad I got to go see this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other films come out of Philly Film Society's drive-in at the Navy Yard, because I get to go back to the movies, and that makes me really happy in a safe way, because I'm in my car, away from every other person's germs there. But those are my thoughts on Tenet. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.